Hello and welcome back to Political Excess. Today let's do another deep dive into an upcoming Senate election. This time let's take a look at Colorado. So let's get on Ballotpedia and start with a little bit of background about this race. The incumbent senator is Democrat Michael Bennet, and he is running for re-election to a third term. 6 years ago, when he last won re-election, he won by about 5.5 points. His opponent on the Republican side is Joe O'Dea, and O'Dea is the owner of a construction company. So let's go back and take a look at their primaries. Well, Michael Bennet was unopposed, and Joe O'Dea, he did have a competitive primary and won with over 55% of the vote over Ron Hanks. O'Dea is viewed as the more moderate, palatable candidate. And if you compare raw vote totals from the primaries, the Democrats had 427,000, while the Republicans had almost 450,000. I don't put much weight on those vote totals, especially when the Democrats did not have a competitive primary. But if you do, Republicans came out on top. And we can go down here and take a look at some campaign finance. And Michael Bennett's is not updated recently, but he does have a lot more cash. And it indicates Joe O'Dea has a little bit of a fundraising gap. And we can go down here and take a look at how this race is rated. Cook Political Report has it at leans Democratic, and Inside Elections and Larry Sabato have it at likely Democratic. My own rating is likely Democratic. Colorado has become just a little bit too blue, and Michael Bennet is not regarded as being on the fringe. So I would guess he would win by 5 to 7 points. Could it get under 5? Sure. Could it flip? At this point, I would think it would not flip, even in a great night for the Republicans. I know it's a red-leaning year, and if everything goes perfectly, it would get very close. But as of now, I just don't think it would flip yet, and Bennet is favored to win. And we can go down here and take a look at the county voting trends on a presidential level. I've already taken a look at these county results previously on a deep dive for the governor's election, but we can quickly go through it again. Over 60% of the population lives in 21 counties that are solid Democratic, and those voted for the Democrat for president in the last 3 presidential cycles. And on the other end, 34.5% of the population lives in 36 counties that voted for the Republican in the last 3 elections. There's a few more counties trending one way or the other. Not a lot of people live in those counties, and this tells me that most of the political polarization in Colorado has already been settled for a little while now. It doesn't mean that some of these counties are not trending one way or the other, and every race is unique, but the top-line presidential numbers are favorable for the Democrats. So if we go down here and take a look at the county map, there are a lot of blue and red counties. The Democrat strength is, of course, in and around Denver, Aurora, and Boulder. There's even some more rural counties that are actually deep blue, but Republicans, they do have a lot of deep red counties, with some of these eclipsing 80% of the vote for Donald Trump last time. And even some counties that do have some population, such as El Paso, that still went for Donald Trump by over 10 points. I'll pull up this page that goes into more depth about how these counties are changing and where and to what extent, but it doesn't look good for the Republicans. And of course, the vote for president is going to be different depending on who the candidates are, depending on the issues that year. It's going to be different than a vote for Senate, for governor, U.S. rep. It's all going to be a little bit different. But on a macro level, Colorado is a moderately blue state, and the trends are not going in the way of the Republicans' favor. They were able to have a win with Cory Gardner back in 2014, but after that year, they've basically been shut out of winning any notable races. I know there will be a focus on the Colorado State Senate. Republicans could make some gains there, but in all these situations, you would rather be the Democrats than the Republicans, even in this kind of national environment. So let's move on to YouTube and see what they've got on their channels. Here is Michael Bennett's channel. He does have some ads as expected on here. He has some other appearances and some interviews he's done. Here's Joe O'Dea's channel. He also has the standard stuff you'd expect, some ads, some events, and media appearances. If you want to take a look at their official campaign websites, here you go. Here is Michael Bennet if you want to donate to him or see where he stands on the issues. And here is Joe O'Dea's site if you want to see his endorsements or take a look at any of his events. So how about any debates? Well, this will show you where all of the debates or forums are going to be for U.S. Senate in particular. So there are some events coming up, so be sure to check those out if you're interested. But let's switch over to Wikipedia and take a look at their endorsements. Here's Michael Bennett's. He's got a bunch of different ones on here in different organizations. And Joe O'Dea, he has a similar amount of endorsements of his own. And that takes us down to the polling. And in the aggregate, Michael Bennet is up 7.7% on Real Clear Politics, 48.5 to 40.8. At 538, it's a little bit more of a gap, 8.2 points. And let's go down here, take a look at the individual polls. And only one of them has Michael Bennet at 50%. Joe O'Dea is roughly in the low 40s. This race could be a sleeper. It could heat up and get close in the final 1 or 2 weeks. That's a possibility. We also don't know how many votes the Libertarian and other third-party candidates are going to suck away. But either way, Michael Bennet is in the driver's seat here. There's just no other way to put it. You can, of course, look into these individual polls to take a look at the sample sizes and the crosstabs. And we could compare these polls to how they stacked up back in 2016. And in that year, Michael Bennet won with just about 50% of the vote, and Darrell Glenn had close to 44.5%. Surprisingly, this second-to-last SurveyMonkey poll seemed to not be that far off, but every poll during October did show Bennet with a lead, and there wasn't too much of an error rate from these polls that I can see. And finally, let's get on Predicted to take a look at the market, and that has Michael Bennet at 90 cents, and Joe O'Dea is at 10 cents. That's pretty overwhelming for Michael Bennet, but in a state that has definitely trended toward the left in the last couple of decades, it's going to be hard to imagine Joe O'Dea winning, even though he's supposed to be more moderate and appeal to the suburbs. I think Michael Bennet being the incumbent and not being viewed on the fringe, that's going to help him. 2 years ago, Donald Trump got less than 42% of the vote in this state. I would imagine O'Dea will outperform that low bar, but as of now, I don't see him getting it really close enough to be truly competitive. Something could change here, of course, as I always say in the last couple of weeks. But as of now, I think Bennet will still win by about 5 to 7 points. So this will let everybody see if the more moderate Republican candidate has any success in Colorado. Anyway, that's a bit of a deep dive into this Colorado Senate race. Let me know in the comments, are you following this race, and what do you think the margin will be for Michael Bennet? Let me know down below. And if you enjoy this channel, please don't forget to like, share, and subscribe. Thank you for watching, and I'll see you next time.